Hello, my dear soul. It is I, Jesus, and on this special night, I come to you with words of peace and rest. I know that your eyes are tired, but your mind has not yet found the path to sleep. I know that your heart carries burdens that seem endless, and that anxiety whispers thoughts that do not allow you to rest. I know each of your sleepless nights, each sigh of weariness, each time you look at the ceiling wishing that sleep would come. I know the pains you carry in body and soul, those that seem more intense when darkness arrives and silence amplifies your fears. Tonight is different. Tonight, I have come personally to be with you, to be your companion on this journey toward true rest. You need not fight insomnia anymore. You need not carry the weight of anxiety alone. I am here, right beside you, with my infinite love and my peace that surpasses all understanding. Prepare your heart for a walk with me. We will go together through paths of serenity, where each word I speak to you will be like a balm for your wounded soul. We will walk through places where anxiety cannot enter, where pain transforms into healing, where insomnia surrenders to blessed sleep. Today is not just a bedtime story. It is an intimate encounter between you and me, where I will teach you the secrets of true rest. I will show you how to find peace even in the midst of life's storms, how to calm your heart when it races with worry, how to surrender your burdens into my hands that carried the cross for love of you. Close your eyes gently, breathe deeply, and feel my presence beside you. Tonight, you are not alone. Tonight, you will sleep cradled by my love. Tonight, your soul will find the rest it has been seeking. Shall we begin our journey? I hold your hand, and together we will discover the path to blessed sleep. It was a serene afternoon when we first met at the shore of Lake Gennesaret. You came to me with tired eyes, carrying the weight of many sleepless nights. I remember that moment perfectly, for every soul that comes to me is engraved in my heart forever. Master, you said to me with a weak voice, I can no longer sleep. Worries consume me, and when night comes, my mind won't stop working. I feel as if I'm carrying the entire world on my shoulders. I smiled tenderly and invited you to sit with me on the soft grass, close to the water. The gentle sound of waves touching the shore created a natural melody of peace. I placed my hand on your shoulder and felt all the tension you were carrying. My child, I said softly, come to me, you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. It was not without purpose that these words came from my lips. I know intimately the burden of insomnia, the agony of endless nights. We looked together at the lake, where sunlight reflected like small diamonds on the surface. Do you see how the water finds its natural way? I asked. It doesn't fight against the stones, doesn't rebel against the banks. It simply flows, trusting that it will find its destiny. You nodded, and I could see a glimmer of hope in your eyes. But how can I be like water when my mind is like a storm? You asked. Ah, dear one, I replied, the storm also has its purpose. It cleans the air, renews the earth, prepares the way for calm. Your worries, your anxiety, even your insomnia, all of this brought you here to me, to this sacred moment where we can be together. I picked up a small, smooth stone from the shore and placed it in your hand. Do you feel its weight? I asked. You nodded. Now throw it into the lake and watch. When you threw the stone, it created concentric circles that expanded gently across the surface. Did you see how it didn't fight against the water? It didn't try to remain on the surface. It simply surrendered, trusted, and found its resting place at the bottom of the lake. This is how I want you to surrender your worries to me, I continued. You don't need to fight against them. You don't need to try to control them. Just surrender them into my hands, like that stone surrendered to the lake. At that moment, a gentle breeze blew over us, and you felt something different in the air. It was as if nature itself was conspiring to bring you peace. The birds sang a sweeter melody, the leaves of the trees whispered words of comfort, and the fragrance of wildflowers seemed to calm your senses. Jesus, you murmured, I feel something changing within me. It is the beginning of healing, I replied. When you allow me to enter your life, when you stop fighting your problems alone, my love begins to work in you, like a skilled physician. I know exactly where the pain is, where the wound that needs healing is. We remained there in silence for a few moments, just appreciating each other's presence. You felt your muscles relax, your breathing become deeper and calmer. It was as if every cell in your body was remembering what it felt like to be at peace. Tonight, I said finally, when you lie down, remember this moment. Remember how you felt here by my side. Remember that I am always with you, even when you cannot see or feel me. And so began our journey together, dear soul. On the shore of that lake, we planted the first seed of peace in your heart. Now, let us continue walking, for there is much more to discover about true rest. A few weeks after our first meeting, you came looking for me again. This time, it was already very late at night, and you were even more distressed. Jesus, you said with tears in your eyes, I tried to apply what you taught me, but the nights continue to be long. My mind won't stop, and now I even feel physical pains I didn't have before. I understood your struggle perfectly, for I myself went through a night of great anguish in the Garden of Gethsemane. I decided to take you to a special place, a quiet garden where century-old olive trees kept secrets of peace and wisdom. Come, I said, extending my hand. I want to show you something very special. Let us go to a garden where I learned some of the deepest lessons about trusting the Father, even in the most difficult hours. We walked together under the silver light of the full moon. The night air was fresh and perfumed with the fragrance of flowers that bloom only in darkness. Do you see how the night has its own beauty? I said. Many people fear darkness, but it is precisely in it that some of God's most beautiful creations reveal themselves. We arrived at the garden and sat under an ancient olive tree, whose branches extended like welcoming arms over us. This tree, I explained, has already seen many storms, many difficult seasons, but observe its roots, they are deep and strong. That's why it can remain firm even when the most violent winds blow. You touched the rough trunk of the tree and felt its solidity. How can I have roots like this? You asked. Ah, my dear, I replied. Your roots grow through prayer, through trust, through surrender. Each time you seek me in your moments of anguish. Each time you trust in me even when you don't understand what is happening. Your spiritual roots deepen. At that moment, an owl sang softly somewhere among the trees. The sound was melancholic, but not sad. It was like a lullaby from nature. Listen, I said. Even the creatures of the night know how to find their peace in darkness. You leaned back against the tree trunk and, for the first time in weeks, felt your muscles truly relax. Why do I feel so different here? You asked. Because here you are in the presence of the sacred, I replied. This garden has already been bathed by many tears and prayers. It is a place where heaven and earth touch, where weary souls find refreshment. I then began to tell you about my own experience in that garden so long ago. You know, there was a night when I myself felt such deep anguish that my sweat became like drops of blood. It was on the eve of the cross, and the weight of the entire world was on my shoulders. You looked at me with surprise. You also went through this. Yes, my child, I replied tenderly. I understand perfectly what it is to feel your heart race with anxiety, what it is to have your mind invaded by disturbing thoughts. I know what it is to not be able to sleep because the weight of worries is too great. But how did you manage to bear it, you asked. The same way you will manage, I said, through prayer and surrender. That night, I said to the Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, but not as I will, but as you will. It was surrender that gave me strength. I took your hands in mine and felt how they trembled slightly. Your hands tell a story. I said, they speak of hard work, of caring for others, of many sleepless nights. But tonight, I want them to learn to surrender, to relax, to trust. I gently massaged your hands, and you felt a current of peace flowing through your body. It was as if every tension, every knot of anxiety, was being undone under my touch. Now, I said, I want you to lie here on the grass, under this blessed tree. Close your eyes and imagine that each worry you have is like a dry leaf falling from the tree. You don't need to hold on to them. Just let them fall and be carried away by the night breeze. You did as I asked, and for the first time in a long time, felt your body completely relaxed. The grass was soft, like a natural mattress, and the fragrance of the olive trees created an atmosphere of deep serenity. Now, I whispered, I will teach you a special prayer for difficult nights. Repeat after me. Jesus, I surrender to you all my worries. I trust that you have control of everything. I ask that your peace guard my heart and mind tonight. You repeated the prayer and immediately felt as if an invisible weight had been lifted from your chest. Your breathing became deeper, and for the first time in weeks, you felt sleep truly coming. Sleep now, I said gently. I will stay here watching over you. No harm can reach you while you are under my protection. And so, under the sacred olive tree, you experienced your first deep and restorative sleep in a long time. Throughout the night, I remained there, like a shepherd caring for his sheep, ensuring that no worry disturbed your rest. The garden taught us that even Jesus went through nights of anguish, but found peace through surrender. This lesson will be engraved in your heart, dear soul, and you will carry this peace to your own home. Several months had passed since our experience in the garden, and you had begun to sleep better, but there were still difficult nights. One day, you came looking for me with a new concern. Jesus, you said, I managed to improve my sleep, but now I'm worried about so many other things. My family, my work, my health, ... It's as if one resolved worry gives way to 10 others. I smiled with understanding. Come with me, I said. I want to take you to a place where you will understand something very important about God's provision and how it relates to your rest. We walked to a green hill where, years before, I had fed 5,000 people with only 5 loaves and 2 fish. The place still emanated a special energy, as if the memory of the miracle was impregnated in the very earth. Sit here, I said, indicating a spot with a panoramic view. I will tell you what happened in this place and how it can transform your understanding of life's worries. You settled on the soft grass, and the afternoon sun created a golden light that gently warmed your skin. A gentle breeze blew, bringing the perfume of wildflowers that grew abundantly on the hill. It was an afternoon like this, I began, when a crowd of people came looking for me. They were hungry, not just for food, but for hope, for healing. for words that could feed their souls. My disciples were worried, exactly as you are now. I could see in your eyes that you were identifying with the story. They came to me and said, "Jesus, these people need to leave to buy food. We have no way to feed so many people with so little." They looked at the 5 loaves and 2 fish and saw only scarcity. "But I see abundance where they see lack," I continued. I took those few loaves and fish, raised my eyes to heaven, thanked the Father, and began to distribute. And then something wonderful happened. The more I gave, the more there was to give. You tilted your head, thoughtful. "How is this possible, Jesus?" "Ah, my dear," I replied, "it's the same principle that applies to your worries. You look at the problems in your life and see only scarcity, lack of time, lack of resources, lack of solutions. But I see abundance, abundance of possibilities, abundance of divine resources, abundance of solutions you haven't even imagined yet." At that moment, a family of birds flew over us in perfect formation. "Do you see those birds?" I asked. "They don't have bank accounts, don't make plans for the future, don't lose sleep worrying about tomorrow. But the Heavenly Father feeds them, and aren't you worth much more than they?" You smiled for the first time that day. "I never thought of it that way. It's because you were taught to worry," I said. "The world taught you that worry is responsibility, that anxiety is care. But I want to teach you a different way." I extended my hands to the sky, and you could feel a special energy in the air. "I will show you how the mathematics of the kingdom of heaven works," I said. "Here, when you surrender your worries, they multiply into peace. When you offer your anxiety, it transforms into trust." "How do I do this?" you asked. "The same way I did with the loaves," I replied. "First, you take your worries, all of them, however small they may be. Then, you raise your eyes to the Father and thank Him for them. Thank Him for the worries." You questioned, surprised, double quotes. "Yes," I confirmed. "Because each worry is an opportunity to see God's power in action. Each anxiety is an invitation to exercise your faith. Each problem is a chance to experience divine provision." I picked a small flower that was growing beside us. "Do you see this little flower? It doesn't worry about being beautiful, it simply is. It doesn't strive to perfume the air. It simply perfumes. It trusts that God gave it everything it needs to fulfill its purpose." You took the flower delicately and smelled it. Its fragrance was sweet and comforting. "So I can also trust that God gave me everything I need." "Exactly," I said. "But there's more. Just as the loaves multiplied when they were shared, your peace will multiply when you share it with others." "How so?" you asked. "When you find someone who is going through insomnia, anxiety, or worries like yours, share what you learned with me. Tell about our meetings, about how you found peace. You will discover that by helping others find rest, your own peace will deepen." At that moment, the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. The beauty was so intense that you both remained in contemplative silence for a few minutes. "Jesus," you said finally, "I feel as if I'm beginning to understand something very deep." "You are," I confirmed. "You're understanding that God's kingdom works with different logic from the world. In the world, resources are limited, and that's why people worry. In the kingdom, resources are infinite, and that's why there is peace." "But what about when the problems are real?" you asked. "When there is illness, financial difficulties, family problems?" "Ah, dear one," I replied tenderly, "I never said the problems aren't real. I said there is a source of resources greater than any problem. Just as 5 loaves fed 5,000 people, my love can supply any need you have. I stood up and extended my hand to you. Let's take a walk around the hill while we talk more about this. We walked slowly, appreciating the landscape that stretched before us. There were small villages dotting the valley, cultivated fields in terraces, and in the distance, the lake shining like a mirror under the evening sky. Do you see all this abundance? I asked, pointing to the landscape. God created a world where there are sufficient resources for everyone. The problem is not lack of provision, it's lack of trust in the provision. So when I worry, am I actually doubting God? You asked. It's not quite like that, I corrected gently. When you worry, you're being human. Worry is a sign that you care, that you have a sense of responsibility. But I want to teach you to transform this energy of worry into energy of trust. We stopped near a small spring that flowed from the rock. The water was crystal clear and made a melodious sound as it fell. This spring never stops flowing, I said. Even in dry seasons, even when it seems there's no more water, it continues flowing. That's how my love for you is a spring that never runs dry. You knelt and drank from the fresh water. It was incredibly pure and invigorating. You know, you said, when I drink this water, I feel as if it's washing not just my thirst, but also my worries. That's exactly it, I said. The living water I offer doesn't just quench physical thirst, but washes the soul, purifies thoughts, renews the spirit. When you drink this spiritual water through prayer and communion with me, your worries are washed away too. On that hill of multiplication, you learned that God has infinite resources for your finite problems. This revelation would forever change the way you would face your worries, dear soul. A few weeks after our experience on the hill, you came looking for me in a state of great agitation. You had gone through some very difficult days, problems at work, a family conflict, and your insomnia had returned with full force. Jesus, you said with a trembling voice, I feel as if I'm being shaken by a storm. Everything I learned seems to have disappeared. I looked at you with deep compassion. Come, I said, I want to show you something very important about how to navigate through life's storms. We walked to the shore of the lake, where there was a small fishing boat. Get in the boat with me, I said. We're going to take a trip you'll never forget. You hesitated for a moment, looking at the waters that seemed agitated. Is it safe? You asked. You are with me, I replied, with a calm smile. Where I am, you are safe, even in the midst of the greatest storm. We got in the boat, and I began to row gently toward the center of the lake. The rhythmic movement of the oars in the water created a hypnotic melody, and you began to feel calmer. You know, I said as we rowed, my disciples also went through an experience like this. They were sailing when a terrible storm arose. The waves were so high that the boat almost sank, and they thought they were going to die. You looked around, noticing that the sky was beginning to darken and the wind was increasing. Jesus, you said nervously, it looks like a real storm. Is coming? Yes, I confirmed calmly. And you're going to learn one of the most important lessons of your life about how to find peace in the midst of turbulence. The first raindrops began to fall, and the wind blew stronger and stronger. The waves began to grow, rocking our small boat. You grabbed the edges, frightened. Jesus, you shouted over the noise of the wind, we're going to die. I stood up in the boat, completely calm, and extended my hands to the stormy sky. Peace, I said with a firm but serene voice. Be still. Immediately, the wind stopped. The waves calmed. The rain ceased. In a matter of seconds, the lake became a perfect mirror, reflecting the first stars that were beginning to appear in the sky. You looked at me with admiration and amazement. How did you do that? The same authority I have over natural storms, I said, sitting beside you, I have over the storms of your life. Your problems at work, your family conflicts, your insomnia, all of them are subject to my command. You were still trembling, not just from the cold, but from the intensity of the experience. I placed my hand on your shoulder, and immediately you felt warmth and tranquility flowing through your body. But why did you allow the storm to come? You asked. Because you needed to see that I am greater than any storm that may arise in your life, I replied. You needed to experience firsthand that, even when circumstances seem out of control, I have absolute control over everything. We looked at the sky, now clear and starry. The full moon reflected perfectly on the calm surface of the water. You see how calm everything is now? I asked. A few minutes ago, you thought we were going to die. Now, it's calmer than before the storm began. It's true, you said with admiration. But how can I remember this when I'm going through real-life storms? That's the most important question, I said. I'm going to teach you 3 secrets for finding peace in the midst of any storm. First, I continued, always remember that I am in the boat with you. You never face a storm alone. Even when you can't see or feel me, I am there, right beside you. You nodded, absorbing every word. Second, I continued, storms are temporary. They may be intense, they may frighten, they may seem like they'll last forever, but all of them pass. No life storm is permanent. And third, I said, the storm doesn't define the end of the story. Often, the greatest blessings come after the greatest storms. It's in the calm that follows turbulence that you most deeply appreciate peace. At that moment, we began to row back to shore. The gentle movement of the boat cutting through the calm water was incredibly relaxing. You felt your eyelids grow. Heavy, Jesus, you said sleepily. I'm feeling sleepy for the first time in days. It's because you finally understood that you can trust me completely, I replied. When you know that I have control over the storms of your life, your heart can rest. When you understand that I am always in the boat with you, your mind can calm down. We reached the shore, but you didn't want to get out of the boat yet. Can I stay here a little longer? You asked. Of course, I said. Actually, I want you to sleep here in the boat tonight. I'll keep rowing gently around the lake while you rest. It will be like a lullaby, the sound of water, the gentle movement, my presence taking care of you. You lay down in the bottom of the boat, using a fishing net as a pillow. I began to row very gently, creating a gentle and rhythmic rocking movement. Close your eyes, I said softly, and imagine that each movement of the boat is taking away a worry. Each gentle sway is carrying your anxiety away. Each sound of water is washing your mind of disturbing thoughts. You did as I said, and for the first time in many days, felt a deep and genuine peace. Your body relaxed completely. Your breathing became deep and regular. Now, I whispered, I will sing for you a song that the angels sing in heaven when a weary soul finally finds rest. And so, under the starry sky, in the gentle sway of the boat, with my melodious voice singing celestial songs, you slept the deepest and most restorative sleep you had experienced in a long time. Throughout the night, I rowed gently around the lake, keeping the boat in constant and tranquil movement, ensuring that no storm, neither external nor internal, would disturb your sacred rest. In the boat, you learned that Jesus has authority over all of life's storms. This experience would become an anchor of peace for all the turbulent moments yet to come. After that transformative night on the boat, you spent a few weeks sleeping better, but there was still something in your heart that needed deeper healing. One day you came to me with tears in your eyes. "Jesus," you said, "I've learned to deal with external storms, but there's a pain inside me that I can't heal. It's an old wound, a hurt I've carried for years, and it prevents me from having true peace." I looked at you with infinite tenderness and understanding. "Come with me," I said. "There's a very special place where I want to take you. It's a place of deep healing, where the oldest wounds can be completely restored." We walked along a winding trail that climbed a hill covered with olive trees. The path was silent, except for the soft sound of our steps on the earth and the distant singing of birds. As we climbed, you could feel that there was something different in the air, a sense of sacredness, as if we were approaching a holy place. At the top of the hill, there was a small stone house, simple but welcoming. Smoke rose gently from its chimney, and a golden, warm light shone through the windows. "This is the house of prayer and healing," I said. "Here, many wounded souls have found complete restoration. Here, you too will find the healing you seek." We entered the house, and you immediately felt an atmosphere of deep peace. The environment was simple but beautiful. Stone walls, wooden beams on the ceiling, a crackling fireplace that warmed the entire space. There were soft cushions scattered on the floor, and in the center of the room, a small fountain of crystal clear water that flowed gently. "Sit here," I said, indicating a cushion near the fountain. "This water has special healing properties. It heals not only the body, but also the soul and spirit." You settled down, and I sat beside you. The sound of flowing water created a natural melody of tranquility. "Now," I said softly, "I want you to tell me about this wound you carry. Don't be afraid. Nothing you say can diminish my love for you." With hesitation at first, but gradually, with more confidence, you began to speak about the pain you carried. It was an old wound, perhaps a betrayal, a loss, a deep disappointment, or cruel words that were spoken long ago. As you spoke, tears ran down your face. "It's too painful," you said, sobbing. "I try to forget, but it always comes back. It's like a wound that never heals completely." I gently placed my hand over your heart. "I feel the pain you carry," I said. "It's real, it's deep, and it has affected not only your sleep, but your entire ability to trust and find peace. Why did God allow this to happen to me?" You asked through tears. "Ah, my dear," I replied, "sometimes the deepest wounds become the places where my grace shines most intensely. Sometimes it's through pain that we learn about compassion. Sometimes it's through suffering that we develop a depth of character we couldn't reach any other way." I took some water from the fountain in my hands. "This water represents my healing grace," I said. "I want you to drink it, but first, I want you to understand something very important about forgiveness." "Forgiveness?" you asked, surprised. "Yes," I confirmed. "The wound you carry is infected with resentment, hurt, maybe even desire for revenge. For the healing to be complete, we need to clean this infection with forgiveness." "But Jesus," you protested, "the person who hurt me didn't apologize. They don't even acknowledge what they did. How can I forgive?" "Forgiveness is not about the other person," I explained gently. "Forgiveness is about freeing you from the prison of hurt. When you forgive, you're not saying what happened was right. You're saying you refuse to allow that wound to continue controlling your life," I offered. you the water to drink. Drink this as a symbol of your decision to forgive, not because the person deserves it, but because you deserve to be free. You hesitated for a long moment, struggling internally. Finally, you drank the water from the fountain. It was incredibly pure and refreshing, and you felt as if it was washing not only your throat, but also your soul. Now, I said, I want you to close your eyes and imagine the person who caused you pain. See their face clearly in your mind. You did as I asked, though it was difficult. Now, I continued, I want you to say these words. I forgive you. I release you from the power you had over my life. I choose freedom in Christ. It was one of the hardest things you had ever done. But with my help, you managed to speak those words. The moment you said them, something extraordinary happened. You felt as if an enormous weight had been lifted. From your shoulders, I feel different, you said in amazement. That's because you are different, I confirmed. You've just broken chains that bound you for years. You've just opened the door to deep and lasting healing. At that moment, the light in the house seemed to become brighter, more golden. The sound of the fountain became more melodious, as if the entire house was celebrating your liberation. But what if the pain comes back? You asked. It may try to. Return, I said. But now you have the tools to deal with it. Every time you feel the hurt trying to settle in again, return to this place in your mind. Remember the healing water you drank. Remember the decision to forgive that you made. We spent the rest of the afternoon in that sacred house talking about healing, forgiveness, and restoration. You shared other, smaller wounds you also carried, and one by one, we surrendered them to the fountain of healing. When the sun began to set, you were unrecognizably different. Your face radiated a peace that wasn't there in the morning. Your eyes shone with a new light. How can I thank you for this? You asked. By living in freedom, I replied. By sharing this healing with others who are wounded. By being a channel of my healing grace in the world. In the house of prayer and healing, you learned that forgiveness is the key to deep healing. This experience removed the last barriers to your complete rest in Christ. Months passed since our journey through the house of healing, and you had become a completely transformed person. Your sleep was deep and restorative. Your anxiety had given way to confidence, and you radiated a peace that drew others to Christ. But there was one last lesson I wanted to share with you. Come, I said, on a particularly clear morning, I want to show you your true home. We walked to the highest point in the region, a mountain that offered a panoramic view of all the land. When we reached the top, you were breathless, not just from the effort of the climb, but from the majestic view that stretched before us. Jesus, you said in admiration, I've never seen anything so beautiful. This is just a glimpse, I said with a smile, of the place I have prepared for you in my Father's house. We sat on a smooth rock, contemplating the vastness of creation before us. The morning sun painted everything in golden tones, and a gentle breeze carried the fragrances of wildflowers. You know, I said, this entire journey we've taken together, from that first encounter on the shore of the lake to this moment, was to prepare you to understand a profound truth. You are not of this world. Your true home is with me in eternity. What do you mean, Jesus? You asked. The reason you struggled so much with insomnia, anxiety, and worries, I explained, is because your soul instinctively knows that this world is not your ultimate home. Your soul longed for something deeper, more permanent, more perfect. Now that you've learned to find peace in me, I continued, you can live in this world without being enslaved by it. You can sleep peacefully knowing that whatever happens here, your eternal future is secure with me. You were silent for a long moment, absorbing this revelation. So all those nights of insomnia, double quotes, you began, were your soul seeking me, I completed. They were silent calls for deeper communion with me. And look how this journey ended. You not only found physical sleep, but also found eternal spiritual rest. At that moment, you felt such deep gratitude that words seemed inadequate. Everything made sense now. The pain that had led you to me, the lessons we learned together, the gradual transformation that had occurred in your life. Now, I said, standing up and extending my hand, it's time for you to bring this peace to others who are still struggling as you once struggled. You took my hand and stood up. How do I do that, Jesus? Simply by sharing your story, I replied. By telling others about our journey together. By showing them that it's possible to find true peace. That insomnia can be healed. That anxiety can be transformed into confidence. And will you be with me when I do this? You asked. Always, I promised. Just as I was with you in every moment of this journey, I will be with you in every moment of the journey that is beginning now. And so, dear soul, we come to the end of our special journey together. You began as someone tormented by insomnia, consumed by anxiety, carrying old wounds and endless worries. But look at you now, transformed, healed, at peace. Always remember the lessons we learned. At the shore of the lake, you discovered that you can surrender your worries like stones thrown into the water. In the olive garden, you learned that. Even I went through nights of anguish, but found peace in surrender to the Father. On the hill of multiplication, you understood that God has infinite resources for your finite problems. In the boat during the storm, you saw that I have authority over all life's turbulence. In the house of healing, you experienced the liberating power of forgiveness. And on the mountain, you understood that your true home is with me in eternity. Now, every time your head touches the pillow, remember, you are not alone. I am there, caring for you, guarding your sleep, protecting your dreams. Your soul can rest because it has found its true home in me. Sleep in peace, my dear. Sleep knowing that you are infinitely loved. Sleep trusting that I have control of everything. And may your life be a living testimony that it is possible to find true rest in Jesus. Until we meet again, whether in dreams or in eternity, I will always be with you. Good night, and may my peace guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus.